Welcome back, everybody. James Bouligny here with Cover 1. We are in week 2 of the Texas high school football season. This is our preseason or our pregame show for week 2. I'd like to bring my co-hosts in, Ryan Chadwick and Paul Harris. Guys, how are we doing today?
Doing great, man. It was a great week week 1. Lots of good, wins. Some tough losses, but hey, I'm just glad it's football season.
Heck yeah.
What do you think, Paul? How was your week?
It was awesome. It's great seeing Lakeview look so good in their season opener.
Yeah, I want to throw up the Lakeview real fast. Lakeview, let's go Lakeview. Let's just talk about some of these. Recap the games we were at. We were at Central and Abilene. Chadwick, you were there. You want to talk about just a recap real fast for everybody?
Man, so it was a tough opponent for the Bobcats from the get-go. Number 8 ranked team in 5A now that week 2 is coming. They were number 9 last week. Central started out that game really well, scored the first touchdown. Defense looked great. But the game kind of switched on them whenever they had a fumble return for a touchdown. They were on the 22 going in, about to take a 14-0 lead, or that's at least they were trying to. And Zay Johnson got stripped, and then that got returned, and that led to a punt return for a touchdown, and then a couple picks in the first half, and the game kind of got out of hand for a while there. But Central played much better in the second half. The defense continued to play well. And we saw Micah Smith, Central's new quarterback, settle down a little bit. He had a couple picks in the first half, didn't throw any picks in the second half. He added a 50-yard touchdown run in that second half. He looked, as a runner, he looked incredibly impressive. And as the game went on, he looked better and better as a passer. So I chalked that up to it was his first game ever starting, and the young man will be fine. But that final scoreline, 42-21, isn't anything that anyone wants to see. So they're playing Amarillo High this week, so let's see if they can turn things around.
All right. And Paul, talk about the pride of the North Side, man. You were at the game. You and Ashton were there. Got some great highlights. Talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it started out rough. Lakeview didn't have a first down in the first quarter. Fort Stockton had won 6 in a row against them. I'm thinking maybe here we go again, despite all the preseason kind of hope that the Chiefs had. But then the second quarter, they just started clicking. Chris Alviso, he just looked so smooth back there. He ended up going 20 of 28 passing. And Isaiah Rios was a real force coming out of the backfield for him, either running or catching the ball. Braylon White, he was a dynamic receiver. He had like 9 catches for 115 yards. And once they got rolling, they just couldn't be stopped. But that kind of like Chadwick was saying with the Central game, it really turned when Kentrell Johnson returned that pick 95 yards for a touchdown at the very end of the first half. The momentum just completely swung, and then Lakeview went into halftime. With all that momentum, they come out and scored 3 touchdowns in the third quarter. And so not only do they win huge, and they looked great. The fans were pumped. And so all the hype that they kind of had, thinking, hey, maybe this could be the year for Lakeview, it certainly looked like it the first week. So, it couldn't have started any better for the Chiefs.
Hey, man, they're already in the playoffs, right?
They are in the playoffs.
So, yeah, go win some more games.
Start working towards that better seed,
Absolutely, because you do not want to meet up with Stephenville in the first round, even though that's graduations, still Stephenville. I went to the Wall Mason game, and I thought after that first play was a Mason sack of Landon York. I'm like, okay, we're going to get in the classic Wall Mason matchup here, and it was not. Wall put it on him extremely good. The running game looked good. Now, I don't think anybody had like a 100-yard game, but Landon York looked great decision-making, explosive offense, and the defense just swallowed up Mason. It was hard to – Mason has a new offensive line, new quarterback, new coach. It wasn't your normal Mason team. So it's kind of hard to get a read on, how good is this Mason team compared to this Wall team, because this Wall team is extremely talented. And I just think that Wall's going to have a better look this next week coming up. And then
7 though.
it was extremely lopsided, and the backups got some playing time, but it was kind of like the Richland Springs Gordon game. Like, Gordon's just that good, and I don't think Richland Springs is a bad team, but Gordon's just that good that they're gonna make anybody they play look bad.
Right.
And then we were also at San Saba and Grape Creek. Grape Creek dropped that one to San Saba, and San Saba looks to be a pretty decent team this year. And any other games you want to talk about? You want to talk about your Bront game, Chadwick?
Man, so that Bronx game was impressive. They 45 Santa Ana, and they only played two quarters. The run game looked good. They're big. They're physical on defense. They swarm the ball. I don't even think Santa Ana got I think a penalty gave them a first down, but I don't even think they got a first down until the end of the second quarter. So the Bronx Longhorns look good, and I do think that they have a very good chance of making the playoffs this year.
Speaking of Longhorns looking good, I'll go ahead and talk about Gordon. It was the first drive after halftime that Gordon ended up 45 in Richland Springs. There's not a lot of teams out there that can say, hey, we 45 Richland Springs. And they actually had a touchdown called back, and one of the Gordon coaches said, what, you don't want to go home, to the ref? And Gordon is just, that was the first time I've ever seen Gordon in person, and they are, as advertised, they are a damn good football team. But we're going to get into this week's games. Before we do, we got to hear a word from Kickin' Cuts. Looking for a fresh cut without breaking the bank? Well, Kickin' Cuts is now open at 4238 Sherwood Way. Haircuts start at $19 for kids and $22 for adults. They offer hot towels, beard detailings, multiple discounts, and they also sell hard-to-find hair care products. Kickin' Cuts is locally owned, and they're ready to get you looking sharp at an affordable price. Kickin' Cuts, located at 4238 Sherwood Way in San Angelo. All right, Chadwick, or actually Paul, talked about Amarillo and San Angelo Central.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good rivalry they've had for a long time. They used to be in the same district. They had an awesome game last year that Chadwick got to see up in Amarillo. I mean, looked like it was going to be a blowout. I think it was 48-14 maybe, and Central comes storming back. Ended up only losing by 3. Amarillo High, I mean, you know, they kind of get maybe forgotten about. I mean, they've got a great program up there in the Panhandle. They bring back a 3,000-yard passer, 1,200-yard rusher. I mean, they're a good team. It's going to be a big test for Central. And if Central can just not fall behind by 32, you know, some crazy deficit, I think it should be a good game this year.
They don't have Squeak this year.
No Squeak. But, again, Mike Smith has a game under his belt now. It almost seemed like in the Abilene High game he forgot he could scramble, because in that second half, as soon as his first 3 reads weren't there, he was like, okay, let's make something happen, and that's what led to that 50-yard touchdown in the second half. I think if the defense plays as good as they did against Abilene High, they have a really good chance. Not saying Amarillo High is a bad team by any means. They're very veteran. They return a lot of people, but they're not. I don't think they're as good as Abilene High. So you don't have those 2 non-offensive touchdowns in the first half. You know, Central almost beats Abilene High anyway. So like I'd like to see the Bobcats have a much better showing this week.
And also, I'd also like to add about Mike Smith. That was his first varsity start.
Yeah.
You know, give the kid a little bit of time to grow and work a little bit, and he'll be all right.
But seriously, though, give the 16-year-old some grace. You know what I mean? It was his very first start. Let's let him settle in a little bit before we make any indictments. Was reading some comments over the weekend. I'm just like, come on, guys. You know? So.
All right, Chadwick, you're going to Snyder for the Lakeview game.
Yeah.
Talk about that one.
It was a pretty exciting week 1 for Snyder. They ended up losing in overtime to Pecos, which, I mean, isn't great for the Tigers, but any time a game goes overtime, you know it's a heck of a game.
Didn't it go double overtime?
Yeah, it went double overtime. I think the final score was 36-28. But Pecos won that one. But so, like, you know, Snyder is going to be hungry for a win at this point. No one likes losing, and no one likes losing in overtime even more. And it just kind of goes to show that their offense can move the ball, and I don't know if their defense can stop anybody with that 36 there. But it was a double overtime game, so that means before overtime he was in the low 20s. So should be a pretty good matchup for Lakeview. I want to see another big week from Chris Avizo, and like, hey, let's get, you know, Kentrell Johnson more involved at state track level speed. But I do think that Lakeview should be favored in this game just because of their performance last week. But like, come on, Northside, let's see. I'll keep it rolling.
All right, and I am going to Brownwood for the Brownwood Wall game. This was a game last year where we kind of felt like Craig Slaughter could have put more. He even felt like he could put more offense in because they were switching from their run offense to their spread offense, and Brownwood only allowed 7 points last year. And this year, you're getting a fully geared up Wall team. And also, Brownwood, They return 8 on offense, 3 on defense. They return their quarterback, Judson Colson. He is the Dave Campbell's preseason offensive MVP for that district. And they also have Carson Knowles, Stone Ratliff to throw to. The defense, though, is going to be key here. They didn't score any points last week, but they gave up 25 to Abilene Wiley, who's a good football team. And it's kind of maybe like the Wall Mason game. It's kind of a hard team to get a read against, because Abilene Wiley is a bigger school and everything like that. But I expect Landon York to go off again. It's really going to be a test for that Brownwood defense. Let's see how good they can look against this Wall offense.
To your point as well, James, when I was interviewing Jacob Braden in the preseason, this is one of the games that the Wall defense definitely has circled. They lost this game in the regular season last year, and he specifically called out this Brownwood game, saying we do not want to lose this game this year.
No, I was about to bring up Craig Slaughter talked about Revenge Tour 2025. So Brownwood, they're coming for you, and they are fast, and they are extremely hungry this year. And then another game we're going to be at is Garden City at Robert Lee. Paul, we got Brenner Sherwood out there making plays in 6-man. Talk about him. Just talk about the game. Let's not just talk about Brenner Sherwood, I guess.
Right. Well, Brenner Sherwood's definitely worth the price of admission.
We don't want to upset anybody.
With what he did last year, the 2,000 yards rushing, 2,000 yards passing. But Robert Lee's, more than that. They got a great team. They're number 15 in the state coming into the year. And this is a really good game last year. Garden City won 68-60. I mean, it was pretty much just. I think they were only separated by 14 points early, and then it was just a close game the entire way. Brody Waltz for Garden City scored with about 3 minutes left, and that was the game-winning touchdown. I mean, Garden City brings back a lot of kids too, so this should be a really good game, and it's not too far away, just up the road in Robert Lee.
All right, and we're going to get into our Player of the Week for last week. Before we do, I hear a word from Shelburne Financial. At Shelburne Financial, you are more than just a number. They will help you plan for retirement, prepare tax documents, and more. Whether you're looking to grow your savings or plan for your future, the experienced team at Shelburne Financial is here to help you and guide you every step of the way. Give them a call at 944-9447 or head over to 3177 Executive Drive and invest in your future. All right, looking into our Players of the Week, we had one player last week who just absolutely stole the show. Y'all want to talk about him? I don't want to talk anymore.
Man, so it's going to be Ozona's running back, Christian Villarreal. In the Lions win, he had 18 carries for 371 yards and 7 touchdowns. Paul, talk about him.
Yeah, what's really nuts is that he had 361 versus McCamey last year, and that got him a Mr. Texas Football Player of the Week, nomination. And then now,
Let's top that.
Yeah, somehow
we're putting him on notice.
Tops that. That's crazy that he managed to do that. 21 yards every time he touched the ball. Before the season, when I asked the coach about him, he said that he's just a special player, and he's off to a ridiculous start now.
We were joking about it in the office. He's on pace for 3,700 yards and 70 touchdowns.
So, yep, Christian Villarreal is our Player of the Week this week. Congratulations, young man. Go put up another 371 yards and 7 more touchdowns, and we're going to end up calling Built Ford Tough for you. It's kind of say, hey, you need to consider this kid.
Not to mention several D1 universities. Someone come check this kid out.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about some of the games that we have coming up. We have about 20 games. Let's just kind of go through them real fast. Chadwick Friendship at Wichita Falls Memorial.
Dude, okay, tough. I'm just going to
rough week one for 6A.
I'm just going to cover all of District 2 6A here. It was a really rough week. Nobody won. Nobody. And it wasn't for lack of trying, but several powerhouses were played in this week. Some of that changes, some of it does not. Friendship's at Wichita Falls Memorial. I do think this is a game that Friendship bounces back after the loss to Byron Nelson. They win this one. El Paso Eastlake is at Odessa Permian. Again, Odessa Permian lost last week to Plano. I think they correct that pretty heavily against Eastlake this week. El Paso Pebble Hills is traveling to Midland High. Midland High got dog walked by South Lake Carroll last week, so let's see if the Bulldogs can bounce back from that. And Midland Lee is at Euless Trinity. They lost to Allen last week, and it's going to be another tough one for the Rebels. And then finally, Odessa High is hosting Bell for their first home game. I do think this is a game that Odessa High can win.
All right. I don't know if anybody in South Lake Carroll knows what dog walking is. They usually just have their maids do it. All right. Grape Creek and Reagan County. Grape Creek lost last week, but we know we know Tanner Taylor's got a senior heavy team that's really experienced, and Reagan County lost a lot of experience, but they did beat only last week. And then San Angelo TLCA at Cisco. Before we kind of get into that, let's talk about TLCA last week. Last year, they did not lose a game by, I'm probably saying that wrong. They got beat by 50 points at least in every game last year. This last week, they lost by 12. I think we could just talk about the massive improvement there against Tahoka. Paul, you want to go and talk about them?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of as bad of a situation as you could have had last year with TLCA. New coach stepping in at the last minute, extremely young team. So yeah, like you said, it was, every loss was a terrible loss. This year, super encouraging to come in and only lose 28-12 to Tahoka. Bradley O had high hopes that with all these kids coming back and him having a second year in the system that it could be better. And so, everybody's got hope heading into the season, but this was definitely encouraging that, hey, this is going to be a better team. I don't think they scored 12 in a game last year, I don't believe. So better offensive showing, better defensive showing. So, maybe this could be maybe TLC could turn the corner. They're only, just 2 years removed from being 5-6, so there's hope that they could kind of bounce back and get back on track.
Yeah, the thing is they have a murderer's row of a district, but it is encouraging, and like you said, when you come in last minute like you did, you don't have a lot of time to work with the kids. Now you've had an entire off season. You knew that you're going to have Chaconnet running back. You're going to have big Kilgore out there. So, hey, let's just keep these little victories, that you have every day in practice. You got to stack good days on good days, and then good things come from that. All right, and then Brady and Mason. This one's kind of interesting to me. Brady and Mason. Brady won last week 60-0. Mason kind of took a beating, but we've already kind of covered. They have just a brand new everything, and they're facing a pretty experienced Brady team here. Jaron Roberts is in year 3 now? Chadwick?
I do think that this is going to be like Brady's first real test. Nothing against the Young Men's Leadership Academy over there in San Antonio, but
San Antonio, we don't know anything about it.
Yeah, like similar situation to TLCA there, kind of a new school, I'm assuming. But Mason has got to be hungry to correct that, because the punchers don't get blown out very often. So I do think this will be an incredible test for Brady, but this is also an opportunity for Brady to take down one of the premier schools in 2A. So,
Paul, go ahead and talk about. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you going to? Oh, my bad. Go ahead and talk about Cristobal and Ballinger real fast. Ballinger had kind of a scary thing happen last week in their game.
Yeah, they're driving to tie the game in the final minutes, and then their young quarterback Wyatt Clemens, he's shown a lot of promise. He ends up having a really bad broken leg, and I believe he had surgery on it yesterday. It was so swollen they couldn't do surgery at first, but terrible for him. First and foremost, hope he's okay, that he can recover. Great kid. And then for the morale of Ballinger, it's just a big shot. They'd lost their running back, Aiden Pena, heading into the year because of the spinal stenosis. And then now they lost their up-and-coming quarterback. So, and they've got a new coach also. So it's going to be really tough for the Bearcats to kind of rally. They beat Cristobal last year as part of their exciting 3-0 start. It's going to be tough. We'll see how they do. You're going to have to take Coleman King from receiver, put him at quarterback now. So we'll just see how they rally and see if they can kind of keep moving forward and shake that off.
I will say, though, playing Cristobal, you got a new head coach there, too. You got a new system down there, new offensive line, everything. So it should be a pretty decent matchup, even though you have all the changes going on. And then Water Valley at Hermley, you got the Lacey's out there at Water Valley, Boston Weiss, my bad. Weiss or Weiss?
I think it's Weiss.
Weiss, I apologize. Trey Cisco, they're always going to be competitive. They're the number 3 team in the state right now. Again, it might be them and then everybody else besides Gordon. And then Sonora at Johnson City. Sonora won 40-0 over Miles last week. Segura looked good. Defense looked good. Sonora, Blake Weston said it. I don't know how good we're going to be, but we're going to be better than we were last year. And that's probably the most coach answer I've ever heard. What about Ozona? Let's talk about Ozona El Dorado.
Man, so El Dorado got the win over Cristobal last week. kind of going to be running into a meat grinder this week. I'm not saying that Ozona is going to blow them out by any means, but Ozona's favored to win their district this year, and that's going to be a very tough matchup for the Eagles. Christian Villarreal put up 371 yards last week, so good luck slowing him down. And that's all I have to say about that game. All
right, let's talk about Junction San Saba. San Saba got the win over Great Prix last week. Junction favorites to win that district.
We'll see. We'll find out how good San Saba is this week, because obviously they beat Great Creek. So let's say Junction plays them really tough. That's really encouraging for Great Creek, but I do think Junction's very favored in this game.
All right, and then Menard and Rochelle and Eden versus at Sydney. Those should be two 6-man matchups. Menard, Jaden Payton should take care of Rochelle pretty easily, don't you think, Paul?
Yeah, I think so. I think Menard's got the chance. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but they have a chance to go undefeated this regular season. I think they only dropped one game last year, and they brought back just about everybody. So I think Menard's got a great chance to repeat as district champs and go as far until they run into Gordon.
That's so tough.
Oh, man, why'd you have to bring it up? And then Erie County versus Rankin. Rankin is a really good team. We know they have a good team, and Erie County may kind of be trying to reload. And then May at Richland Springs. Richland Springs, you just put everybody on your schedule this year. Paul, talk about this one.
Yeah, so after opening with number 1 Gordon, now they got number 2 May. You really couldn't start any more difficult. May was number 4, then they beat number 2 Whiteface last week, 64-46. So justifiably they jumped Water Valley and into the number 2 spot. So even though they're number 2, I think there's a big gap between number 1 and number 2. And so as bad as it was for Richland Springs last week against Gordon, I think they have a chance to be competitive with May, though I think May is the favorite.
No, it's very clearly Gordon and then everybody else. It's just, they're big, man. I didn't realize, Stryker Reed's a D1 player at the next level. And then Miles, Sterling City. Miles has, kind of a new team. They have the quarterback coming back in Liam Yancey, but they graduated a lot of people. And then Sterling City, they're kind of in a weird, they were playing an 11-man high school, and then junior high were playing 6-man last year, right, Paul?
Yeah, they're still doing that, and so that's what their new Coach Luker was talking about, is having to juggle both, going back and forth between 6-man and 11-man. So in all likelihood, this is their last year in 11-man, but they've made the playoffs the last 3 years, and they've had a pretty good rivalry, with Miles. So both of them starting off 0-1, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a competitive game.
All right, and then Lorraine at Paint Rock and Rule at Bront. Any other games come to mind, guys, before we wrap up our kind of outlook this week?
I don't really think we missed anything, man, but it's going to be a lot of good games. Like I said, I got to watch Bront play last week, so it'd be nice to see the Longhorns keep it rolling.
All right. Well, we're going to hear a word from Angelo MRI, and we'll be right back with our college coverage.
Have you ever needed an MRI? Do you know someone that needs an MRI? And did you know that you have a choice? When your doctor orders an MRI, tell them that you choose Angelo MRI. The founders of Angelo MRI started Angelo MRI when they faced the high cost of MRIs from traditional medical facilities. That's why Angelo MRI offers a better way. A high-quality MRI for just $5.95. And Angelo MRI accepts all insurance, saving you time and money. It's your health, your money, and your choice. Angelo MRI, 4114 South Jackson in San Angelo, or look them up at angelomri.com. Remember, when your doctor orders an MRI, tell them that you choose Angelo MRI.
All right, Angelo State is playing Emporia State. Take it away, guys.
It's going to be the home opener for the Rams. They avenged their loss last year to Fort Hays State when that weather delay debacle forced the game to be played the next day. But this year, they travel up there, and they just kind of, impress their will upon them. The Rams win that game 28-7. Braden Fuller had a great game. That running game didn't look like it could be stopped, and that defense is as advertised once again. Only allowed 7 points. I do think that they carry that momentum into Emporia State for their home opener, the Rams home opener this weekend, and they keep that rolling 2-0. I think that the Rams' biggest strong suit on offense this year is that they have an established starting quarterback from the get-go in Braden Fuller, and I'd like to see the Rams win this one again pretty handedly. Coach Gersh seemed confident on Monday when I talked to him, and like I said, I think that this Rams team has the potential to be something special. It'll be a real good test against Emporia State on Saturday. You got anything, Paul, Dad?
Well, no, just kind of to piggyback off what you said. I mean, they started off 0-2 last year, then they 9 in a row. The undefeated conference title run. Like you said, now Fuller is the guy, and I mean they hit the ground running. The defense looked great, and the offense, just took care of business, did what they had to do. They don't have to do a ton because the defense plays so well. I mean, I don't think he even threw 20 passes last week. Mm-hmm. But so coming in, Emporia beat them last year. I think that they're the favorite, this time, and I think the same thing. I think Angelo State's got a ton of potential this year to not only make the playoffs, but maybe win a couple games.
All right. Let's go ahead and talk about Texas Tech. I know you want to, Chadwick.
Oh, yeah. I got to talk about my Red Raiders. They opened the season last week, very highly anticipated and, controversial, criticized transfer class. Lots of the big blue bloods in college football have their panties all in a wad this year because Texas Tech finally can do the same thing that teams like Texas and Alabama have been doing for decades, paying their players. Yes, I said it. Anyway, Texas Tech opened up against Arkansas Pine Bluff, and I don't know how good of a matchup that was for the Red Raiders because it was over as soon as that opening kickoff went off. Red Raiders held a halftime lead of 47-0 before a huge thunderstorm rolled in. Everyone up in the press box and on the field kind of had to hang out and chill for almost 2 hours while we were waiting for that thunderstorm to pass. But they came back out and in really weird fashion played 2 8-minute quarters in the second half. I was like, is this a scrimmage? Is this high school? This is weird. It doesn't feel like college football. So they only played 16 minutes in the second half, and they still added 3 more touchdowns on top of their total. Ended up winning that game 67-7. Arkansas Pine Bluff did score 7 points against their third string, so I guess that's something to hang their hat on. They got a fat check. But this week, Texas Tech plays Kent State. Baron Morton got hit pretty bad in week 1, their quarterback, but it ended up just being a high-persistent knee. Joey McGuire, head coach out there, assured everyone that Baron's going to be fine. So I think this will be a little bit tougher of a matchup for sure, but I still don't think it's going to truly test what the Red Raiders are capable of, but I do think it's going to be a big game and another big win for Texas Tech.
All right. Paul, you want to go ahead and talk about Texas, Ohio State, and then Texas, San Jose State?
Well,
Not really, but
kind of a letdown to go from such an exciting game last week with all the hype, and then now it's San Jose State. No offense to them. But, I mean, the Longhorns losing by 7 at Ohio State is disappointing. Arch Manning took a lot of criticism for only putting up 7, but not much tougher place to open than at Ohio State, defending national champs, great defense.
They probably have the
back
best
off of Arch Manning a little bit. He was the second coming of Jesus 2 weeks ago, and he has a mediocre game against the number 1 defense right now in the nation, and
has probably the best defensive player in the nation on that defense.
Right? It's just like now he's awful. I don't know. Like I might not be a big Texas fan, but come on, guys.
Yeah, I think the Longhorns are going to be fine. Arch Manning's going to be fine. This is a obvious, nice bounce-back opportunity. So we'll see how it goes, but, much bigger test down the road, but I think the Longhorns are going to be fine.
All right, and then we got some Aggie on Aggie violence. We got some Texas A&M versus Utah State. My bad. I apologize, Paul. I didn't mean to bring it up again. And then we're going to come back with final thoughts. Before we do, here's a word from the ArcLight. College football and live Texas country music every Saturday. Enjoy 3 big college games followed by live music every Saturday at the ArcLight Bar and Grill inside the Clarion Hotel at 441 Rio Concho Drive. This Saturday is Ronnie in the Redwoods following the Oklahoma versus Michigan game at around 10 p.m. It's the Texas Country Tailgate every Saturday at the ArcLight Sports Bar and Grill inside the Clarion Hotel located at 441 Rio Concho Drive in San Angelo. All right, before we kind of wrap it up here, down there, Tybee and Kerrville, of course, Kerrville suffered horribly in the floods of on July 4th. 117 people were killed, and Kerrville did something really cool. They took first responders out on the field with them. I'm just going to give them a shout-out. I'm going to give this, he's a meteorologist down there, and I will credit him. These are pictures from his Facebook of first responders on the field and everything. They had first responders on the backs of their jerseys. Shout out to Kerrville or Tybee. That's awesome. Y'all did that. I just wanted to give them a shout out. Chadwick, you got something?
Yeah, like big shout out to UTSA. They ended up losing their matchup to Texas A&M last weekend. I think the final score on that one was 42-21. Played the Aggies really well. At one point in the third quarter, it was 21, I think 18, I believe. And it looked like that UTSA might even be able to take the lead in that one. So looks like the Roadrunners might actually be pretty good this year. And of course, Texas A&M takes on Utah State next week. I think the Aggies are going to continue to roll, but I think it says a lot for how far UTSA has come from not even technically being like a real D1 to almost taking down the Aggies. So shout out to those guys.
All right. Well, this has been the pregame show. Don't forget to join us on Saturday for our postgame. It will not be as late as it was this past week. It will be earlier than that. But for James Bouligny, Paul Harris, Ryan Chadwick, this has been the pregame for week